This is Allison Rice for AgWeb, and we are here in Northern Illinois with Jerry Gulke. We're doing our weekend market report a day early on Thursday since we're here.
Great.
So, Jerry, why don't you tell us about what you're seeing, what we're doing out here?
Well, we just finished a field of soybeans, and we thought we'd move to another one. And the forecast, being fickle as it is, looks like it's going to stay cloudy and then rain. So we're done for the day, which has been kind of typical this fall for harvest. We get a couple days, and then we get rain, and we got 4.5 inches of rain the last time, and so we started growing soybean or combining them at a higher moisture than normal, probably at around 15.5%, because usually they come down to 9% and we can blend them. This time they just stayed wet, and now finally are down to what's acceptable. But now here comes rain again. So that's part of the good news about this harvest, is that thought we were going to blast it out of the field, and where are we going to find storage for it? But Mother Nature provided some delays that allowed elevators to catch up, drying corn or whatever. There's still a lot of corn and soybeans left in Northern Illinois and Western Illinois, and as you go north. So we're about half done with soybeans, which we should have been done a long time ago, and doing corn now. This is probably a normal year. We've been so blessed in the past, we haven't had them before.
You were also saying that you were looking at some of the pods and you were checking some of them out and weren't quite finding what you had maybe hoped to find or expected to find.
Kind of I'd say it's a good yield, but not this stuff that we heard about in the South, in Louisiana and Missouri, and even Southern Illinois had a much better crop than we did. Our average is about 50 bushel an acre. I think we'll beat our average, but the market hype had us believing that we've got 70 bushel beans out here. Well, we maybe had the pods and the stalks, but when we started looking at the beans, there was some disease. Frost came and did more damage than what we thought we would have. We didn't get freezing, killing temperatures, but we got cold enough to where it did set the beans back. So we're about an average crop, but not better. And it gets that way. It gets kind of worse the further north you go. We've heard erratic things about beans being 10 bushels under APH, and there's some 10 bushels above. So probably where the USDA is, probably where we're at. It's probably no better, no worse than what we see now.
Okay. Well, and speaking of markets, you mentioned that today was a big day for exports.
Yes, soybeans were unbelievable. We've had soybeans as good as corn for week after week, and this week we had over 2 billion bushels, 2 million metric tons of soybeans this week, export sales, to be exported physically later. And that's twice what we did in corn at 1 million, but that's still a lot for corn. So that's huge in beans, which means we're selling this stuff. There are people in demand for our products, and that may be the good news that's out there that nobody's talked about yet.
And then in terms of prices, since we're doing this on Thursday,
right.
You were saying, things could change by tomorrow, of course, but sort of looking ahead to the week to come.
Well, we've had this is if beans can hold, and there's no reason to suspect that beans are going to crash and burn for any reason, because we've got some rain coming next week, and once we get half done with soybeans, the harvest pressure of beans are probably over. But we've had some things happening from a weekly basis situation that looks good technically, and oftentimes the technical action or the market changes in prices tell you more than what the fundamentals do, and they're now turning long. So which means we need a really big drop in grains, both corn and soybeans, to turn this thing the other way. So it looks good. It would be there's going to be more and more people saying, well, maybe we posted the low of the year October 1st. And so far in October, that's been the low. And we'll see what November crop report says, but it won't be so far from the November low that it'd have to be a pretty bad crop report not to suggest to buyers who haven't purchased to start locking in some end needs, because irrespective of where we're at, we're still cheap compared to where we should be, and where farmers will probably not change their market mix. Right now, it looks like more soybeans and less corn until something major happens down the road by next March or April.
Well, what about the situation with corn in terms of the prices? Because as we were talking earlier, we've seen some people saying, well, is the low here in terms of corn prices? Are we done with that?
Well, it looks like it. I think from my standpoint and from a producer standpoint, we don't get any better than where we're at now, perhaps, and probably where we were a week or so. We've come up some, but I think we hit a low of 288 for cash corn at the elevator. You got to deliver it and dry it to get that, and we were up to 318. That's nice. It's a 30-cent rally, and on 200 bushel corn, that's $60 an acre. But 318 is no picnic, and I think we're still $1 away from where we should be in order to get enough corn planted to meet demand. We'll see what happens, but at these low prices where we're at, whether it was a low or not, I had no interest in growing more of that same variety. So while your speculators and the people in the Board of Trade and so forth will surmise that, well, this is low enough for us to produce it, it got low enough, and it didn't matter if it went to $2.20. You're not going to buy anymore. And I think that's where we're at now, trying to discover a price in the Board of Trade and in our trading that will enable us to be able to plant corn at a profit again. We'll see what the winter brings, but right now it's you store it and you take a warehouse receipt on it, put it under loan, and get some cash flow, and let the market come to us, or see what our competition does by spring.